You're listening to Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Join us as we explore how medical professionals can achieve stellar success in all areas of life. It's time to level up.
Hi, everyone. We're back at Stellar Success Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tudor Francu, and I have a great guest today, Dr. Donna Marks from Palm Beach, Florida. How are you, Dr. Marks?
Doing great. Thank you.
Thanks for coming over. We're going to have an interesting discussion about your professional career and also about your personal success. You're a writer, you're an author, you're a speaker. What do you think success means to you?
Fulfilling your purpose and mission. That's what I think it means. A lot of us try a lot of different things, and sometimes it takes a lot of those different experiences for everything to come together. But I think that our life is designed a certain way, and that those experiences, personal, professional, educationally, they all come together to help us to achieve that mission and purpose.
Yeah, that's great. What is your mission and your purpose then?
Well, my mission is to help people to understand that mental health is our number one global crisis. And it's packaged in the form of different diagnoses: depression, anxiety, heart disease, kidney disease, alcoholism. And really at the root of all that is that we have forgotten how to take care of ourselves. We've forgotten how to love ourselves and our children and teach them how to love themselves. And so we have all these substitutes for love that have caused this tremendous mental health and physical health problem, which that's why so many people are on drugs. That's why there's such health issues. That's why there's a pill for everything. And at least now some people are starting to speak out about this and force us to kind of look in the mirror, like, really, what is at the root of all these symptoms that we're having? And it's the lack of self-care, proper self-care.
I totally agree with that. I think we live in a time that we're bombarded with a lot of information, a lot of news, a lot of things that coming from different ways and in different channels. And the technology helped us in many ways. But in this respect, I think it's something that it's not necessarily beneficial for our mental health. And I totally agree. I think we need to put some kind of limits and barriers to what comes into our mind because I think we're overstimulated at some point.
I totally understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, but I've never felt that we can be anti anything. You know, a war on drugs isn't going to work, and an anti-technology or boundaries and all. It's just, you tell the kid not to put their hand in the cookie jar, and that's all they can think about. But what we can do is provide alternative behaviors that start from the moment of birth, the teaching people how to love themselves and care about themselves so that they're not going to be at the effect of all that stuff like instant gratification, and this will fix this and this will fix that, and you just need this new car, and you just need this love relationship, and you just need this pill, and you just need this perfect drink and this perfect this and this perfect that, and get it right now online right this minute. You know, that's the mindset that has created this sense, and that's why, like right now with the political environment, that people are crazy because they expect the world to serve it up to them on demand. And, whether it was the last election or this one, it's that reaction that the world's supposed to operate around me the way I want it to. And that just is never going to happen. And we need to learn how to love ourselves and each other through these experiences and not through trying to get those quick fixes and attacks and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to talk a little bit about your strategies and your solutions to this, but I want to kind of get a glimpse on your journey a little bit for the audience. And if you have a little story for us, how did you start? What was your journey and where are you now?
Well, I was born into a family that was very challenging, and childhood was really painful. There was abuse, there was alcoholism, and I was an only child, so there was really no solace. And by the way, I feel compassion for my family now. I don't have any type of, I don't even like really bringing it up anymore, other than that people sometimes think I was born with silver spoon, and that's not the case at all. I had a very challenging childhood. Fortunately, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents who were very stable. They were pretty shut down, but they were stable. So I really was able to contrast the different types of lifestyles. And I always had a fairly strong spiritual connection as a child, which helped me to cope. But then by the time I was a teenager and I just got in so much pain, I started learning. I had a friend who introduced me to substances, and I was off and running. I had become very depressed and had tried different ways to get out of my depression, including a suicide attempt at age 15. But when I met drugs and alcohol, that just took me into a whole nother dimension. And I got married when I was 16, divorced when I was 18. I was a single mom, high school dropout. But there was that part of me that was still connected spiritually, despite all of the craziness. And I knew, because I had an internal message that told me, you can do better. You can do better than this. So I went to night school, got my diploma, worked as a waitress, and took some typing courses, and then got a secretarial job, and was able to go to school, to the community college, and then on to a state college, and then eventually got a doctorate degree in adult education. So it was, it was a lot of work. I wound up doing a lot more than that, which inspired me to be educated about recovery and mental health. I feel like there's a lot of people that are in the field that are unhealed, and my commitment is to be healed. Doesn't mean I'm perfect, doesn't mean I don't have meltdowns sometimes and all kinds of human emotions and experiences, but I know what to do to take care of myself and others in those moments.
Yeah, this is very impressive, and I think your story in general, it's a very compelling story of someone who can overcome a lot of I would say downsides that are born into, and as you said, keeps you going. But obviously, the way you are right now and where you are right now, it's based on probably several failures, I would say, however you want to call them, setbacks or things
Absolutely.
that didn't necessarily pan out for you. Can you give us an example of such things that kind of pushed you forward by their learning, and you learn from them and you move forward?
Well, I think all of the things that I experienced, it was either because I was so frustrated with myself and disappointed in myself, or there was something painful that happened. I got into recovery in 1986 because I hit an emotional bottom, and it was either do or die. I did not know that I had an addiction problem. No one ever told me that. No one ever, I never received a DUI. No doctor ever said I had physical symptoms. No person ever said, I think you need to look at your, use here with alcohol. It just never, in fact, when I was in treatment, they said, write to people and have them describe your behavior. And every single person said, I don't know what you're talking about. She's, not like that. So it can be more subtle for some people than others. So what I've learned through my research, which I do a lot of because I write a blog every week, is that most people with addiction problems, and there's so many. I mean, we've got alcohol, we've got drugs, we've got prescription drugs, we've got illegal drugs. Marijuana is a huge thing right now. We've got sex addiction, pornographic addiction. We've got technology addiction. I mean, it just gambling. It just goes on and on and on. What most people don't understand is that almost all people that are suffering from addiction are highly functioning people. And so we have this mindset that an addict is staggering around out there in the tent and the homeless section, and that's not me, and that's not who I know. And that's really unfortunate. So that's really part of my mission, is to speak up about this, that we are often highly successful people. In fact, it's that, ambition and drive, but it can also be somewhat addictive, and that we are not immune because of that. And so it's important to understand that I believe that things are made intentionally to get us addicted. It's not an accident. Why is there a certain amount of alcohol in alcohol? Why are pills so addictive? Why is gambling so addictive? What is it about pornography? What is it about sugar that makes it so addictive? A lot of research goes into these things. And so I think we are, I don't want to say innocent, but we innocently get addicted, and then we don't know how to get out of it. It's a maze. And then when people do go to treatment, they only address the primary addiction. What happened for me, to answer your question in a long-winded way, is I addressed alcohol, and then I quit smoking, and then there was love addiction, and multiple relationships, and it just went on and on and on. And so what I'm trying to help people to understand is that we can be mentally and emotionally healthy now. We don't have to just keep moving that whack-a-mole game around over and over and again. We can be healthy now by learning how to fill that void, that feeling that something's missing, that invisible hole, by learning how to love ourselves.
Yes, definitely. And I think you brought up several very important points. And one of them is, being on a success podcast, so to speak. I think you mentioned that very often successful people hide, I would say, not necessarily a full-blown addiction, but some kind of behavior towards being addicted to something. It could be good or bad. They could be addicted to a good thing. That doesn't change the subject, but indeed, we need to address those issues. In your career, do you think there is any skill or habits personally that you use that doesn't get enough credit for where you are right now and how you overcome those issues?
Well, I think I went into, there's two things that helped me more than anything. One was the 12-step programs. I went to several for different things. You only need to go to one because it's the same. And that's why, I write about this, like, let's address the root of the problem, which is that invisible hole. And, otherwise we're going to go filling it from one thing to the next. So 12-step programs, they're free and they are amazing. The reason they don't work is because people pick and choose what they want to do. But when you do what's recommended and you follow the suggestions, they are pretty much foolproof. It does take effort and you are uncomfortable at first, but so what? It's not nearly as uncomfortable as full of shame and guilt and continuing to do the same thing again and again and failing at getting any type of positive momentum in your life. So that's the number one thing. The second thing that helped me more than anything was that I am a psychoanalyst, and to be a psychoanalyst, you have to be in psychoanalysis. And this was the most challenging thing that I'd ever done. It was traditional classic analysis where I was on the couch and just talking about whatever came to mind. And I was so uncomfortable, but I really overcame that self-centeredness and that fear and really allowed another human being to help me and guide me. And I had a wonderful analyst. I'm very blessed for that. And she really knew how to help me with all of that angst. And I got through it. I wound up being in psychoanalysis for 13 years. And I'm very grateful for that experience. So those were the two biggest things, which are, by the way, at the different polarities, because in the 12-step programs, it's a behavior approach. And psychoanalysis, they don't really want to deal with addiction. They're starting to recognize it a little bit more. But when I got my training, they didn't talk about it. They treated it differently than behavioral approach. So I was able to integrate that in myself and in my own practice when I'm working with my patients.
Yes. Can you give us a little glimpse on the 12 steps that you were talking about, or how we can get hold of them and the audience can look it up?
Yes, it's very easy to access the 12 steps. If you feel like you have a problem with alcohol, you would simply Google Alcoholics Anonymous, and there's a questionnaire that you can answer that has signs and symptoms. And there's, like I said, it's free, so you have nothing to lose other than to learn about yourself. If you have a narcotics problem or a prescription pill problem, you can Google Narcotics Anonymous, Food Addicts Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, whatever the condition, there is a 12-step program for it. There's even adult children of alcoholics and Al-Anon. Those are all 12-step programs. Al-Anon is for people who have a child or a loved one who's suffering from addiction and they are beside themselves and don't know what to do with that person or with themselves. So this is it is a behavioral program, but it's also a spiritual program. And it really helps people to have the tools that they need to heal whatever they've gone through, either as the person witnessing it or as the person who's suffering from the addiction.
Let's see.
So everything's all you do is Google Alcohol Anonymous, Gambling Anonymous. It comes right up. And the list of all the meetings. And there are so many meetings around, even in remote areas. Sometimes people have to drive a little ways to get to one, but they also have video movies all the time, 24/7, worldwide. So you don't even have to get in your car and go anywhere to learn and grow.
I see. So I want to kind of refocus a little bit on your personal strategies that you deal with every day for your own success. Are there any routines or habits that you employ every day for yourself to get to where you want to be? And, does that include any books, any podcasts, any type of exercise, any kind of nutrition habits, anything that you can advise someone to employ and also, from your own experience, recommend?
I certainly would be happy to share that with you. I learned in the 12-step program that I need to start my day off by asking for help from my higher power. And the beautiful thing about the 12-step programs is that you get to choose whatever higher power is to you. For some people, it's nature. For some people, it's music. For me, I feel that there is some type of divine intelligence that has certainly governed my life and guided me in a wonderful direction when I stay out of the way and allow it to happen. And so that's the challenge of learning how to have faith and how to have patience and to just step out of the way. But I learned in the 12 steps, start my day off. I literally get on my knees and I ask my higher power to help me to stay sober today and help me to be of maximum service to that higher power. And then at night, I thank my higher power for keeping me sober. And I review my day and where was I wrong and what do I need to do about that? Do I need to apologize? Do I need to correct something? Do I need to change a behavior? And then every morning and at night, I have a few books that I read, Course in Miracles. Sometimes I read the Bible. I have a 24-hour, Hazelton puts out a 24-hour, one day at a time book. So I have these resources. I also like to read psychoanalytic books, the standard edition. So these are just things that nourish my soul and keep me engaged. And then I do weekly blogs and I eat very healthy, mostly vegetables and proteins and fruits. Very, very little sugar, very few. I sometimes have a little bread, but very, very little because I just feel that it bogs me down and makes me sleepy. And I don't like myself when I eat things that aren't healthy. I just don't like the way I feel. I shouldn't say I don't like myself. I have a rigorous exercise routine that I do every other day, either in Pilates or Orange Theory or at the gym. And so this is a mind, body, spirit. It's comprehensive. It's not like work anymore. It's just part of I feel so good all the time that it's just reinforces itself. And I just feel at peace and a great sense of joy. And it's because I'm getting nourished from all those sources.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think there's definitely some trends that successful people have in a daily life, and those habits mean a lot for them. And one that you mentioned here, it's probably the most important, at least to me, and I think I could recommend it, is reading. I think reading is one of those things that not only center yourself around your mind, but also gives you an introspection into your day, because you have that time where you're undisturbed. You focus on what you're reading. You think about what you're reading, and you can think about how you can apply what you're reading. So I think it's very important for a lot of people to understand that we live in a life that it's go. Like you said, I want it now. I want it yesterday. Something needs to happen right then. But reading is one of those things that calm you down and puts you in a state of mind that allows you to think better.
Reading is like listening to music. It really does something for your soul. And I admire you that you still do it. So many people, not everybody learns the best way visually. The auditory books are very important too. And people can really concentrate on those and get the same effect. But there's something very special about relaxing and taking those materials and learning, because there's every page of every book, there's something new that you can learn from. And it's a wonderful art. It is a beautiful experience to open up and let yourself be nourished by words. Words are very important.
Absolutely. I want to kind of take a step aside and talk a little bit about the financial aspect of being a professional, a healthcare professional. And, a lot of people are thinking about retirement. They're burned out. They have issues of practicing anymore, and they just want to quit. And they don't have the financial means to do that. What do you think, in your experience and from your professional career, financial passive income streams mean to you, and how do you plan to accomplish those? If you have any, things that you like or strategies that you apply.
Well, thank you. That's an interesting question. I've done a lot of different things in my life. I've been a psychotherapist for over 35 years, but I've also done some real estate. This is a very hot area. And I noticed about 25 years ago that there were certain areas in the county that if you bought and did fix-ups, you could make a lot of money. So that was one revenue that I studied. I also studied under the Financial Mastery with Tony Robbins, and read the books that were recommended, multiple streams of income and things like that. I also invested in some stock market. And my son got me into Bitcoin, which has been a great, amazing.
I know the day we're recording this, it just hit $99,000. So
yes. And
for the record,
quite a while ago. So that's been a bonus. But one of the things that I did in terms of my, and then I've also written some books, which has been another source of revenue. And that in itself is a beautiful story. I'd written one book, self-published it. Then I wrote another one, Exit the Maze, One Addiction, One Cause, One Solution. And I entered it into I got so much good feedback. I entered it into a lot of contests and won over 25 book awards. And I was telling somebody about that. And she said, oh, you should meet my friend. She's a book agent. And I had tried to get a book agent. It is very difficult to get an agent, let alone a publisher, but this connection worked, and I just fell in love with this agent, and she got a publisher, Beyond Words, who has a contract with Simon Schuster. So that book got revised and reprinted under Beyond Words and Simon Schuster, and then they published my last book, which is The Healing Moment: How to Turn Messes into Miracles of Love. So that's been an additional source. But what I was going to tell you is another story. During COVID, when it was right before Zoom became so hot and people were canceling, they're afraid to go out. And I didn't, fortunately, I'm not judging anybody who was afraid, but I personally did not feel any fear about COVID. I prayed, and I got the message, get up and go to work. So that's what I did. And people were canceling, and they were afraid to come in. And then eventually Zoom happened. And some people, after a few months, were more comfortable coming in with masks and things like that. But during that time, I was guided to change my practice. And so I just did the same thing that I've been telling you. I prayed and I meditated, and it came to me to shift into a concierge practice. So for the past 4 years, I've only worked with a few people at a time. People hire me for a month. It changes everything in terms of the dynamics of therapy. I'm often on these sites with therapists are asking for guidance and help, and they're saying, they're burnout, like you were just talking about, or I want to retire, but I can't. And all kinds of my patients are texting me all the time. And so what my concierge program does, it responds to all that. It's like, take fewer patients, charge higher fees, give them the service that they want and they need. No, not everybody can do that, but you can always get an associate to take the cases that can't afford the concierge services. And then you just take the ones that can and provide the quality of care where someone really, you can be there for them. And you don't have to experience that kind of burnout. And you establish an incredible bond that's very healing, and it's that in itself, where you, instead of this once a week, 1 hour a week, distance, we don't need to get close. You actually do get close in a healthy, therapeutic way, not in an inappropriate way. And it's been very powerful. So I've been doing that for the past 4 years, and it's been so successful. My daughter said, you got to teach other people how to do this. So we're actually doing a workshop the first Friday in December, teaching other therapists how to craft a concierge practice.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think a lot of people can benefit from this. And also you're going to act as a coach for someone else, as a mentor for someone else. And I wanted to ask you what kind of influence coaching and mentorship had in your life so far? A lot of people are questioning the methods of, hiring a coach or having a mentor.
I think I have no objection to coaching and mentoring whatsoever. I know that some psychotherapists resent that coaches come into the field. There's no lack of business. There is plenty of business for everybody. And the other resentment I hear is this coach has made $25,000 to just work for a month. And I'm like, well, you could do that too. Yes. So learn how to do it. And it's okay. And so there's plenty for everybody. And I think coaching has its place. And sometimes people don't charge anything. They're just mentors. I had a supervisor when I was working towards my licensure, and he mentored me. And he's the one that said, you really need to get your doctorate degree. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm a single mom. I can't. And he said, yes, you can. And I did. And so that mentoring has such a special place, because when someone mentors you, they see things in you and strengths in you and abilities in you, and they have the ability to encourage you in ways that you can't do for yourself.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think most of us underscore what we can do in a year, and we don't see our potential very well. Unless someone like you said, a coach or a mentor says, no, you can do this. And I think it happened a lot in my life also. And I think you probably experience the same thing, but people need to understand that you need a coach and a mentor, not necessarily to tell you what to do, but tell you how much you can do.
Right. To guide you, to have those guardrails up that help you to stay on track and to get from plan A to plan B to C and D and success.
Exactly. And, most of the time to think bigger than you think you can think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they all have their place, and they're all very important.
Absolutely.
And the key here is to be willing to be taught, to be willing to learn, to be willing to be in a subservient position that you don't know and that you can learn from someone who does.
No, definitely. And I think from my research and from the people that I've interviewed so far, I noticed that nobody is really successful unless they had a great mentor or a great coach. So I think those two things in your life, mean a lot to attain your potential, because otherwise you have your limiting beliefs back in your head. There's that little man in your ear that says no all the time. And you have someone from outside that has to yell at you, yes, you can do it.
I agree with you 100%. But there's also the internal mentor that, like the one I got, that said, it's time to change your practice.
Yeah.
And here's how you can do it. That I had never heard of. And I'm sitting there getting this information from this internal source, and I'm taking notes. And I actually wound up a month later with my concierge brochure with, the different plans and everything. And it involves, when people sign up, they can have anybody, the whole system, whether it's a business system or a family system. I mean, it's been wonderful. But that came from that internal mentor, and then got reinforced by the external coaches and mentors and support system.
Yeah. So
some of it we would never come up with, and some of it we just need to listen to that internal guidance, the good guidance, not that negative thing that's never shutting up.
Right. So with the things that you know right now, with your experience, with your wisdom over the years, if you would look back into your youth and your beginnings, how would you advise yourself?
Oh, I would definitely tell her that she's a wonderful little girl. And it's beautiful that she has this spiritual connection, and don't let go of that. And don't let all of this other stuff get to you. You don't have to escape your feelings. Your feelings are okay. Yes, people are telling you something's wrong with you because of your feelings, but there's really something wrong with your environment. It's not you. And you're just experiencing a lot of pain, but you don't have to escape that pain. I'm here for you. We'll get through this together. And I don't want you to smoke cigarettes. That's not good for you. It might make you feel better for the moment, but it's not good for you. It's not good for your heart and your lungs and your brain or anything. And I don't want you to drink, and I don't want you to take drugs, and I don't want you to look for Mr. Right. You are okay just the way you are. And I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to hold your hand, and we'll get through whatever we have to get through. We'll do it together, and you will be successful. It will be okay. You will overcome all this. And this is going to have a good ending. Your life is going to have a great ending. Now, that happened anyhow. You were just getting there.
That's awesome. Any good projects, any goals, anything in the near future for you?
Well, we have that workshop coming up, and then I supervise people, which I love doing, but it's people who want to get licensed in the state of Florida have to have qualified supervisors. So I've been doing that lately. I really enjoy giving back that type of mentoring that I received, and really tapping into people's potential and helping them to trust in themselves and to be the best therapist that they can be. So I'm enjoying that. I did write another book that my agent is pitching that's on relationships. And I'm also working on another one. I'm very productive, and it sounds like I do a lot, but it doesn't feel that way because of the way that my practice is set up now. I do have lots of free time to be able to engage in these final projects of this final part of my life, where I can leave a legacy behind that will go forward for my children and grandchildren. And to be able to feel like I came here, I did what I came to do, and I can die peacefully whenever that is.
Excellent. How can people get in touch with you to find more about what you're doing and maybe get some mentorship from you?
Well, I would love them to sign up on my webpage. It's www.drdonnamarks, Marks. And there's all types of free resources on there. I also have a challenge. We're going to be teaching a course to help people who are struggling with addiction. We're going to be teaching that, but there's lots of free things on the webpage. I do a blog every week. There's over 300 or 400 articles already on there, and there's questionnaires to self-evaluate. There's just so many resources there, or they can just email me if they have a question. I'm more than happy to respond to it.
That's excellent. Well, I think people are going to enjoy this interview and probably reach out for some more details, because you seem to have a lot of resources, and your approach is a little different than the traditional way. I would definitely recommend it. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's been a pleasure.
That's a wrap on Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Interested in joining us? Go to stellarsuccesspodcast.com/guest to apply. Stay stellar and level up.